episode of Wannabe String Major. Today we're going to share some techniques of effective practicing that we picked up from other colleagues and professors. It is incredibly important to learn how to be prepared for practice and what techniques you should use to get your best results. It's almost an art form all by itself. This video will include everything you need to know to get a full instrumental and musical experience and will help prepare yourself for the music major world as much as possible. We will first run through our basic practice session and then discuss some of the other fundamentals. Keep in mind as you are watching this video that these are only suggestions and opinions. If your private teacher suggests you do something differently, you should make their tips a higher priority above ours. Everyone practices differently, and your practice session should be what works best for you and your playing ability. Also, you should work on activities in the allotted time your teacher gives you, and you should focus on repertoire that you are assigned. Finally, if you attempt to practice the amount we recommend, but find any part of your body in pain that may be related to your practicing, you should stop immediately and try to pinpoint and solve any problems you may be having before continuing.
And it becomes drudgery, to them. Oh, I have to go practice, rather than, oh, I can't wait till I have time to practice today. And that's the attitude that I think we have to cultivate, is I can't wait to get my hands on the instrument and play today because it's just exciting to do. And to do that effectively, you've got to have some very specific goals of what you want to achieve and a good method of how to do it, rather than just run through it and hope it gets better through repetition, but to really kind of map out, well, what are the techniques and skills I need to develop in order to play this music more artfully.
If you have practiced and have worked diligently on your instrument or voice, whatever, if you've been conscientious and you're dealing with music, then deciding to be a professional, that is to major in music, should work. There's no magic fairy dust that we can sprinkle on you that goes, poof, now you can play this. It takes hard work and diligence and thought and creativity and heart and soul, and if we're not into that, if we don't focus on that, what does my heart and soul tell me about this music I want to play?
Scales and arpeggios are the basis of everything. Without proper technique, without proper command of the instrument, you're going to look at a scale or an exercise, or you're going to look at a piece and not be able to play it because you don't have the technique to get through the scales that go along with it. So start with the scales and build up a foundation. It's nature's rule. First learn to walk, then learn to fly.
Go into a room and play your instrument. Be expressive. Whatever your mood is of the day, play something. Pick a key and improvise a joyful melody or a sorrowful melody, or do it in a key so that you feel like you just created something. Then get into, okay, here's the things that I need to get done today in terms of my practice. Set a goal for yourself, and then rejoice when you achieve that goal. Pat yourself on the back. When you don't achieve that goal, don't beat yourself up. Just add that to your next practice session. Okay, I didn't finish this, I got to come back to it. Because there's no gun to our heads. There's no limit. We have our whole lives in front of us. What a beautiful thing it is that we get to do this thing called music and get paid for it. The art of music. It's lovely, but it won't be lovely if we don't work at it. It takes effort and desire and goals, and I hope that students look at practice as an opportunity to perform rather than simply as, I've got to go practice. Boy, I can't wait to get behind my marimba or my drum set. What if that was all of our attitude?
The very first thing you want to do is find a practicing space. It can be any space, but you must make sure that the room is free from any distractions that can easily make you lose focus. You should also choose a room of a good temperature so that you and your fingers can practice comfortably, and so that your instruments won't easily go out of tune. It's good to also look for a practice room with good acoustics so that you can focus on your tone. Practicing involves a large amount of brain activity, so you want to be relatively well fed and definitely well hydrated, so that you can keep the brain and muscles working. If your muscles feel tight or cramping for any reason, eating foods that are rich in potassium might help, such as bananas. This can also work if you are auditioning or playing in a concert and your muscles are tense from being nervous. You also want to wear comfortable clothing, particularly if you are a violinist or a violist and need to hold up your instrument around your shoulders and neck. Any form of restrictive clothing or baggy clothing can be constrictive to your practicing. Finally, it helps to be in a good emotional state so that you can remain enthusiastic and motivated to practice. Breathing helps to clear the mind and lets you focus more on the music. You will need your instrument or instruments that you plan on practicing, all of your music, a pencil, and a tuner, plus any additional equipment your instrument comes with, such as a shoulder rest or a humidifier. I like also having drinking water with me so that I can stay hydrated while practicing. The amount of time you should practice depends on your major. If you are a performance major like I am, then the majority of your time should be dedicated to your primary instrument, which should range about 3 to 4 hours, 2 at the very least. If you are an education major or any other music major, then spend about half an hour to an hour of practice on each instrument, but focus mainly on your primary instrument and practice at first so that it will be in the best state. The very first thing you want to practice, of course, is scales, the foundation of all music. Out of all of the 12 tones, I practice 4 tones a day and work with several varieties of the scales, including major, melodic minor, natural minor, and enharmonic minor, all in that order, and then I finish off with the arpeggio. Eventually I will learn different scales as my professor teaches me them, but for now I practice scales slowly so I can focus on my tone, shifting, and intonation. I used to practice all 12 tones a day, but this only happens if time allows it. What I am doing right now is practicing my scales with drones. Drones are individual notes that are played for a few minutes straight, without break, and can be very useful for tuning, intonation, and improvisation. As I play the scale, I listen to the drone and fix my notes from there. This is what the E-flat major scale sounds like while I individually listen to the drone. And this is the E-flat major scale as I hear it with the drone. If you want, you can have a little fun with your scales too, just as long as it doesn't detriment your overall work. I like adding a small turn to my harmonic minor to add a little flair. The next thing you want to practice are etudes. One for the left hand, fingers, wrist, and arm, one for the bow hand and techniques, and one more for double stops. These etudes can range vastly in difficulty, meaning they can be incredibly simple or the trickiest piece in your repertoire. You'll find, however, as you continue to practice these etudes, that they make playing your other pieces a lot easier. Literally, you need help with any techniques? There's an etude for that. Even if it seems beyond your skill, just keep working on it and your results will be rewarding. After that's done, you can move on to your main repertoire. If you are a performance major, you should spend an hour on each piece so that you spend a large amount of time fixing out mistakes and finding ways to express yourself in the piece. If you are an education major or any other type of music major, half an hour should do the trick. It's also good to listen to your pieces often so that you can catch simple mistakes you could be making or grabbing some ways to interpret your music. Keeping this in mind, it's good to listen to multiple recordings of your music so that you can hear different interpretations and can be more artistic with your music. Every once in a while, you are bound to come across a difficult shift or fingering. When this happens, you should slow down your practicing and work on the difficult part until you fix it. However, as soon as you fix that part of the passage, you should practice the fix over and over again until you can play the passage without any more difficulty. Always remember, practice makes permanent. If you practice it wrong, then you will continue to play it wrong. But if you practice it right, then you will learn and then play it correctly. After that, it's good to also practice any orchestral excerpts or chamber music you may have. Every once in a while, try to perform for somebody too. Funny, you never realize just how strangely you play until you actually see and hear yourself playing on camera. And then, finally, spend at least 5 minutes just playing for fun. Some musicians like to play for fun before they start the actual practice session. This way, they can fall in love with their instrument first. This can also be great for motivation. When all of that is said and done, then you can move on to practicing other instruments. Just kidding. Okay, so if this all seems like a lot to work on, I certainly understand. It was intimidating for me too at first, but it was extremely helpful in the long run. Plus, once you start these exercises, the time flies by, and you'll find it's not so bad after all. If it's been a long time since you practiced, start on small steps of practicing and then work up from there. If you find you don't like your resulting sounds at first and find yourself getting frustrated or discouraged, don't worry. Even professional musicians have their bad days, but just keep going. As long as your work is consistent and persistent, then your sound will improve every day. I must also stress that it is important to protect your hands as much as you can. You don't want to do too many strenuous activities with your hands, but if you choose to do so, take constant breaks. Wearing out your hands is no fun, especially in the world of strings. So make sure to keep your nails clipped, and if your fingers are sore or blistering, discontinue your practice. Also, if your hands, arms, wrists, fingers, or elbows begin to hurt, take the time to figure out what the problem may be. Playing a string instrument is intended to be natural, so if any parts of your arm, hands, or body begin to hurt, they may be worn out from another activity, you could be practicing in a strange position, or you simply can be practicing too much. Yes, I really did just say that. It is indeed possible to practice too much. While it's good to spend a lot of time on your instrument, practicing should be filled with consistent breaks that should maybe last at least 5 minutes per hour of practicing. Also, it's good to work on things outside the practice room, such as other work, hobbies, or just being social. Good music is all about balance, and it's good to have your practicing habits be the same way. Now, if you play an instrument and want to be a music major, but if you have to start preparing for the professional world, pay close attention to this part. It is never too late to start, but you should start preparing right now. Sign up for private lessons so that you can get individual attention and opinions on your own playing. Start getting familiar with the piano too, whether you choose to do so by yourself or with a teacher. Also start familiarizing yourself with music theory. In other words, scales, chords, harmonic analysis, and sight singing. Oral skills is important too, so sing a little, whether you're singing your own piece or just singing along with the radio in the morning. One last important thing is to involve yourself in ensembles and organizations as often as you can. Try to participate in orchestras, bands, and choirs in your school, and look around in your community for different playing opportunities. Look around especially in the summer for music camps that might be going on at different music schools and universities, where you can experience the college life for a little while and familiarize yourself with different professors. The more musical experience you can get, the more prepared you'll be for higher education. Well guys, we covered an awful lot today. Next time, we'll focus in on working in ensembles, particularly in orchestra. I'll introduce you to our symphony orchestra and we'll do a little bit of playing for you. Maybe even show you a tidbit of our concert. Until then, take care and happy practicing!